Kamala Harris will hold her final rally here on the Rocky Steps in a few hours from now. The message will be one of unity, but also to get out and vote on election day. We know that more than 77 million Americans have already voted, but both of these candidates want millions more to vote for them. It could all come down to Pennsylvania. I want to bring in now our US politics analyst and former US Ambassador Joe Hockey. Joe, great to see you. There's so many changes and twists and turns in this campaign. The momentum has shifted a number of times as well. What are you looking at on election eve? Where do you think it's headed?
Well, it still remains too close to call, but I am starting to get intelligence that the early voter turnout for Kamala Harris hasn't happened, and she hasn't had the surge in support that people were expecting. There's also a lot of information coming out in Pennsylvania about key aspects of the Harris campaign that are failing to obtain the same advantage as Joe Biden. For example, there is a large Jewish community in Philadelphia. They broke 70% to Biden, 30% to Trump last time. Current polling has them at 50-50, and that could mean a shift of 40,000 votes from the Democratic Party to Trump. Now, that alone could potentially tip Pennsylvania. There's a few other micro details that are starting to come through that are indicating that Trump is getting more momentum and Harris is waning in her support.
Well, that's so interesting. Look, I'm here at the final Harris rally of the campaign, so the people you speak to on the ground here aren't exactly a good litmus test of what is going on. But it's interesting that you talk about Pennsylvania in particular on the early vote, because in 2016, when Trump won Pennsylvania, the black Democratic base failed to turn out for Hillary. Now, it swung back to Joe Biden in 2020 because he is essentially a local. He's a Pennsylvanian. But, I mean, Kamala Harris doesn't have that advantage that Joe Biden has.
Well, that's right. Seen as a member of the Pennsylvania family, whereas the same cannot be said for Kamala Harris, who hails from California. You know, the other thing is, it remains the case that Harris has failed to separate herself from incumbency. And as we keep seeing day after day, the one reliable poll you can absolutely trust is the fact that 70% of Americans feel the country's heading in the wrong direction under Biden-Harris. Now, what Harris has done is tried to establish an anti-Trump coalition, and in doing so, unite people against Trump. Now, that's happened for the last two elections. That's what Biden did, that's what Clinton did. The question in my mind is what makes this anti-Trump sentiment new and exciting? And frankly, there's not a lot to go on for the Harris campaign. Meanwhile, Trump is really prosecuting and coming home with a wet sail, arguing about the slowing US economy, the fact that cost of living is up, and that immigration remains a very real issue for many Americans.
Yeah, we saw that today. He was in North Carolina talking about immigration and the economy, combining those two issues together, saying if the immigration issue isn't sorted out, he's threatening now 25% tariffs on Mexico. When I was in Michigan just a couple of days ago, and even here in Pennsylvania, that kind of economic message is resonating. I still feel like he has the upper hand on Kamala when it comes to the economy and costs of living. And, you know, flat out, just yesterday, one guy said to me, I was richer when Trump was in power. How potent is that message and that feeling?
Oh, it's everything. Look, any incumbent government anywhere in the world is in trouble because high inflation hurts the working class the most. It really does. The cost of living pressures associated with everyday living are really tough on the working class. And when you see that 70% of the unionised truck drivers in America voted within the Teamsters union to endorse Donald Trump. And at the other end of the spectrum, he's got the richest man on the face of the earth, Elon Musk, endorsing him. What brings those two parties together is a focus on economics. And economics is going to be more important than other social issues. We've heard hardly anything about health and education. And as you and I know, the left in politics usually win when they're talking about health, education and climate change. The right usually win when they're talking about the economy, national security, personal security. And this election, of all the policy issues debated, we've hardly heard anything about health and education and virtually nothing at all about climate change. Yet everything is still about the economy or Donald Trump.